Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines and welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins, who shall be led by Dr. Doom and Darkness, aka Azag the Slaughterer, atop his mighty steed, Skullnudger. And today, guys, we face off against the proud Dawi, who shall be led by Ungrim Ironfist Gotrek, as well as Felix. So certainly quite the gathering of heroes. And they're also going to be coming in hot with the dreaded PENTA gyrocopter build. So this is definitely a little bit tricky for the Greenskins to deal with, and it's kind of the evolution of the Dwarf metagame against Greenskins. What I found is I've been playing against a lot of high-level Dwarf players with Greenskins, and it used to be a matchup that was very Greenskin favored. You just come into Blackworks and Squigs and just kind of overrun their lines, and it's really hard for the Dwarfs to stop that, especially in conjunction with the WA and some of the magic support the Greenskins do have. So what Dwarf started doing is basically they get a combination of troops. Usually it's Longbeards and occasionally what is it called? So Longbeards, you get the Norgoblings, Ironbreakers, you get Thorgrim, and you basically just sit in a Death Star with your Dwarves while your Gyrocopters go and harass. And it's actually pretty powerful. I've seen a lot of Dwarf players been able to take out really good Greenskin players using this build, and it's quite tricky to deal with. Now, a couple of variants for sure. As far as this build goes, Ungrim can work. He's unbreakable, so he's going to be fighting to the bitter end with Gotrek. I do think Thorgrim is a little bit more optimal, and also you usually see the steam cannons. However, it looks like my opponent has brought all the Brimstones, which are a little bit more expensive, and also it looks like he's basically just opting for more armor piercing because the Gyrocopters with Brimstone guns do have better AP values, therefore a little bit more effective against Blackworks, but nonetheless, we'll see how it does. So as far as my build goes, based on what I've basically just told you guys about this matchup and how it's kind of evolved in the metagame, I do have a couple Blackworks. So I have 4 Blackworks, and they're pretty much just the most optimal choice. These guys just beat down Dwarf and Infantry for the cost. With the WA, they become absolute lawnmowers. And yeah, they're just really, really durable. On top of that, we do have Azag up in the sky, who is a little bit susceptible to being sniped. He has 110 speed against 105 with the gyros, so he can't really catch them super effectively. And also the gyrocopters have anti-large and AP, so they can really burn him down very quickly. But it's kind of like a finesse piece. You need to be very careful, kind of pull back, pick your engagements, and use the support on the ground. So the way to deal with gyrocopter spam with the Greenskins is as follows. You bring Morgrub's Maging Marauders. Why is that such a hard one for me to say? It's usually the first game of the day, I guess, is the trickiest for my brain to function in. But nonetheless, Morgrub's Maging Marauders, we do also have 3 groups of Goblin Wolfrider Archers. So these guys are just MVPs. They're cheap, they're expendable, they only cost like 300 gold or 350 or something like that. And yeah, they have crappy AP, but basically they're really fast and they can put steady pressure on gyrocopters. Like, the gyrocopters can shoot them, yes, but it's going to take a while to burn through, 60 Goblin Riders on these stupid wolves here. So we'll see how these guys do. In total, we have 4 of them, and we do also have 2 of the Greenskin Archers. So we have Orc Airboys here, and also to get the Dwarves out of the box. Because basically, there's a couple of variables, right? There's the Air Force, which we have Azag, we have 4 Riders, and 2 standard Archers to kind of deal with those guys. And then the other variable is the Dwarven box. So a lot of times when you see this style of Gyrocopter play, the player will essentially just sit in a box and just sit there and attack with the Gyrocopters. Then you're forced to go attack this box, which isn't necessarily optimal. So in that case, you bring Goblin Rock Clobbers. So we have 3 in total, one of which is going to be the Hammer of Gork, dropping some heat here with its bonus AP values against the Dwarves. And yeah, I think it has a little bit better AP. And it also has, I think, a Discourage effect or something. Let's go ahead and check here. It's been a while since I've used this. And it looks like it actually lowers melee attack and accuracy. So not bad against Archers and things like that. But basically, that's the whole formula. On top of that, we do have a couple Squigs as well. These are just mobile AP units and certainly can put some hurt on the Dwarven formation. So you force them out of the box with the artillery. And when they come forward, you attack with the Blackworks and the Squigs in the back. And you keep their Air Force at bay with, all these troops. Now, that's much easier said than done. It's actually very, very difficult for sure. And we'll see if I'm going to be able to pull it off in this game. Because look at the bounce of power. It's already Dwarf favored, which is probably due to the fact of the characters here with Gotrek, Felix, as well as Ungrim Ironfist being unbreakable. Quite spooky. So initial skirmishing is underway. Goblin Rock Lobbers are going to be dropping some bows here on the Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, and these guys are going to have a little bit of trouble against the Blackworks for sure. I probably would have waited on the edge of the map, although it's hard to say because I do have the artillery. So like I said, it kind of puts the Dwarves in a bit of a precarious situation and forcing them forward. In the meantime, you can see the Gyrocopters, all 4 of them, I believe there's 5 in total, but 4 of them there do unleash a single salvo on the Goblin Wolfrider Archers, and I lose 10 models, it's really not a big deal. So you can see from a cost effectiveness standpoint, the Goblin Wolfrider Archers can certainly do some work here. So some of the Blackworks have engaged in the force here. These Dwarf Warriors with great weapons are going to get absolutely pounded by the Blackworks. It is going to be extremely one-sided. And basically with Azag, I'm just kind of hiding in the tree line, trying to stay away from that Gyrocopter fire because I am not going to eat their sandwiches. It is not going to be fun for sure if I stay out there. So we're just kind of hiding, pulling back. I know that the longer I can delay the effectiveness of the Gyrocopters and just kind of run with Azag, run with my other good targets, the Dwarven ground force is going to be losing this fight very, very badly. Blackworks, of course, putting a serious hurt on the Dwarf Warriors. I think a couple of groups are already offline. So one group here is pretty much done. The other group over here in the forest area is in some trouble as well. we have some squigs kind of lurking in the wings, basically just looking for an opportunity to kind of go into the back line. But despite some good early picks, right, we did good damage to the Dwarf Warriors, we've done some decent damage against the infantry and the characters, I still am behind on the balance of power. So here, this is also another really important thing. If you're playing against any composition that's using Gotrek, Felix, and another character really, you always want to take out Felix first. He's the squishier of the targets, he provides the healing, so getting him out of the formation is super valuable. So here we come in with Azag, but it's a bit of a costly trade because I go into attack, my archers can only screen so well, and I take just 5 fat volleys to the face with Azag, and he is certainly hurting pretty bad here. But nonetheless, we're getting some good fire. The Wolf Rider archers are shooting, the Orc archers are shooting, and believe it or not, the artillery pieces here, the Hammer of Gork and these other tools like this, are actually not bad against the against the gyrocopters. Because, you know, if you hit him, it still is going to do some pretty good damage. So it looks like he is going back here, maybe preparing a bombing run or going to dive here. If he does dive, it's a little bit risky because my Wolf Rider archers can come back. Nice bombing run right there, doing some good damage, but it looks like some of the goblins were able to scoot forward. Was able to kind of dodge most of that, but that was a very cool kind of synced bomb right there, so good micro nonetheless. Now down here in the pits, the Squigs and Black Orcs have attacked, and you can see Felix is in a little bit of trouble. Mr. Jaeger not in his happy place here, as Black Orcs and Squigs are just kind of going to pound town on him, but nonetheless, my Black Orcs are actually getting a little bit worn down. This one group is very, very beat up here. The other group of Black Orcs, I think here, is down to 53 models, and I think the other ones have actually been kind of forced back. You can see Black Orcs here running for the hills, and my other group of Black Orcs, my fourth one, I believe routed in this general direction. Yeah, back here in the forest, and they're back now, but still very scary stuff. So the game is currently very, very close. Azag is going to be going in, so I drop a Spirit Leech on this gyrocopter, and then I go after this one, which essentially shuts down 2 of the gyrocopters, but there are a couple pursuing me here, so I'm going to have to fall back to the forest. If I tried to chase this one down, I would take a lot of crossfire from the back, so basically just falling back to my defensive elements, not being too greedy, knowing that this is going to be a long game, and I'm really going to have to fight a war of attrition, really. So here you can see the Goblin Wolf Rider archers still screening, not doing like huge damage, but every point of damage they get in counts. And they have a pretty decent ammunition, of course, and they're very, very cheap. And I also do have a couple of groups of Orc Airboys who are very healthy on ammunition, which is quite nice. Now, another thing that's going to be very tough, of course, is dealing with Ungram as well as Gotrek here. I mean, these guys are absolute linebackers, but the Black Orcs should be able to get through them eventually, considering that these guys don't have healing anymore. Of course, if Felix was here providing those dank heals, it would be a very tough situation to actually burn these guys down. And it's one of the big strengths of the build. Like, builds like this before the introduction of Gotrek and Felix were okay, but having these like just characters that you can basically just helm deep on and play Hero Hammer. For example, in Warhammer 40k, it's called Hero Hammer. Armies that just have a ton of characters, not many troops or vehicles or things like that. And it's kind of like that with this Dwarf build, really. So yeah, you can see here that there's a fight to the death. Gotrek, of course, or excuse me, Ungram popping Deadly Onslaught in the Axe of Dargon. Gotrek's Doom has been popped, making him very, very tough to take down. But for the first time in the game, the bounce power has come right towards the middle, maybe even a little bit favored here, as Felix is running for the hills. The gyrocopters are in a bit of a weird place, basically just being chased down by the Morgrum's Magi Marauders and my Goblin Wolf Rider archers, and also now my Hammer of Gork, my Goblin Rock Lobbers, all of my different artillery pieces are shooting at the gyrocopter. So if my opponent's micro lapses for even a second, he could potentially be losing a gyrocopter to a bunch of haggard Goblin Rocks. So here they come, shooting downtown here, and let's see if we can make some contact. Yeah, look at my ground force. It's actually in a little bit of trouble. And another really good strength about my opponent's build is basically the Greenskins are going to have to, at some point, blob up on top of your characters and have a couple of units fighting. So they'll blob up on top of Ungram and Gotrek, at which point you can come in with a bombing run and do good damage. So I do see this coming. My Black Orcs are going to be scattering to the wind. Squigs will get caught there, but the fact that we scattered there at the end really mitigated a lot of that incoming damage. Orc Airboys on the ground shooting up at the gyrocopter, and if we take inventory of how many gyrocopters are left, we have 3 here, we have 3 right here, we do also have 3 here, and 2 right here. So finally we're going to get one of these guys off the battlefield, and this Azag, now that he's relatively safe, the other gyrocopters are kind of screened out. I don't mind taking a couple shots here, so I get the Wolf Riders, I send them after this gyrocopter, I get Azag, I decide I'm going to chase these guys off so I don't have to deal with them anymore, and over here the other gyrocopter is going to be taking massive focus fire from Orc Airboys, which actually don't have the worst AP values. However, guys, a little bit scary, the bounce fire does go back towards the middle as freaking Ungram here and Gotrek are able to win the melee fight. So the Black Orcs and the Squigs, just thousands of gold of resources, basically just gets pushed back. And yeah, I'm on the run here. So my Black Orcs are going to have to run. Granted, it's not that scary of a situation because Azag's very healthy. I have a bunch of Black Orcs which will come back. 34 here probably would be able to finish off Ungram. And I do also have some Squigs around the map. Goblin Wolf Rider archers could probably tar pit him. But most importantly, I do have Azag on the edge of the map with a ton of Winds of Magic. I could probably cast like 6 or 7 more Spirit Leeches over the course of this game. I mean, I have a lot of Winds of Magic, and my artillery pieces here are basically just shooting Ungram point blank. And yeah, he's not having the best time here in this situation. My opponent is going to bow out knowing he pretty much has no chance at that point. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It's really actually quite tough to deal with that. My opponent had pretty good gyro micro. Like he was microing, you know, all 5 of them relatively effectively, like pulling back, kiting and shooting when I chased. It was quite tough. Now, a couple things in his build could be tuned to make it much more optimal, and it would have been, I think, harder for my build to deal with. Granted, my build, I think it's pretty well equipped to deal with gyrocopter play. A lot of it does come down to micro. Like if I screw up once with Azag, for example, and all 5 gyrocopters are able to just bomb him, like yeah, that can lose you the game pretty quickly there, because then you don't have to punch to finish off the characters in the late game. But yeah, I think this build's pretty strong. So for anyone who has been struggling against dwarven boxes and gyrocopters and things like that, give this build a try. It's a little bit micro intensive, but I think you guys can handle it. And let me know what you think. Now, as far as my opponent's build goes, I would 100% cunt the Dwarf Warriors with Great Opens. They're just not a good unit. And yeah, I understand the school of thought. You want extra AP against Black Orc spam, but really, it's more important to just hold longer and allow your characters to fight with a little bit more support longer, because they're the ones who are going to finish off the Black Orcs. On top of that, I think the Brimstone guns are decent, but the steam cannons are actually better at finishing off archers, better at killing artillery, and better at finishing off wolf riders. So going with the steam cannons is a much stronger choice. So on that note, guys, let us go ahead and I'll show you guys a build which I think is a little bit more efficient against Greenskins if you do want to go with gyrocopter play. You don't have to play gyros against Greenskins. There's a couple of different ways to play for sure, but it's certainly a very viable one and quite strong. So well played to my opponent Sigmar. He had some really good micro for sure with those gyros. And yeah, ended up being a great game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. And now let's go take a look here at a Dwarf gyro build that will probably, in my opinion, be a little bit more efficient. But let's go ahead and take a look here. And of course, it's just my opinion. So we're going to get Big Boy here, Thorgrim. And on top of that, you want the Great Book of Grudges. And you're going to get Gotrek and cut these abilities. You don't really, I mean, they're okay, but you can basically cut them just to get more stuff. And from here, I usually would opt to get Longbeards, probably with the shields. You can get Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, which even Black Orcs, it takes a while to burn them down. And then you get a couple Longbeards here. This is your front line, and then you get 2 Dwarf Warriors in the back. And these guys are going to be kind of just, you know, for any flanking units, they can just take the beating. But Thorgrim is so damn tough to take down. Plus, he has a couple really good buffs. So he has the High King buff. He gives weapon damage, charge bonus melee attack based on the circumstances of the battle. Immune to Psych. He gives melee attack to your nearby troops constantly. So Gotrek and Felix are going to be linebackers. And basically what you do is, you're going to have some trouble with the Black Orcs in the main fight, but you get Gotrek, you get Felix, you get Thorgrim, and you just have them snipe Black Orcs. Like, they fight nothing else. They just go after the Black Orcs, and you eventually will be able to wear them down. Thorgrim, though, he doesn't have quote-unquote great AP values. He still hits like an absolute truck, and you can use Oath of Vengeance on the Black Orcs to make them just go down super quick. And yeah, your troops are basically just there to hold and support your characters. And, you know, Thorgrim with healing, man, that's scary. He also has better mass, so you can use him to block up characters like Azag and protect Felix a little bit better. So from here, honestly, I would recommend the gyrocopters with the steam cannons. I just think they're objectively better in this situation. Those guys are just a real pain in the butt to deal with because they just roast a lot of the lightly armored stuff. Now, in various tournaments, I believe there's caps on gyrocopters. I think you can only have 4. I don't think you can have 5 in tournaments, so I'll kind of make this build a little bit more, because I know a lot of people in the community usually play in tournament events and things like that, so I'll try and keep the builds in line with that. But on ladder, you can bring a 5th, and it's not going to be any issue of any sort. So from here, you have a little bit of an option. I would recommend just getting like Dragonback Slayers or something like that. So now you have like this unbreakable, relatively speaking unbreakable. You have like a really durable line. The steam cannons are going to be much more efficient. So basically, if you put 1 steam cannon on each of the Wolf Rider archers, it's going to be able to do a lot of damage for sure. But you still have to take into account Azag, and there's going to be a lot of micro. It's still not easy for sure against the build I brought, but I think that this would be a little bit more efficient. And of course, spend the rest of your gold on chevrons however you please. All right, guys, well played to my opponent Sigmar. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Greenskin versus Dwarf game, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Take care.